Let's start this afternoon from the Sine West constituency in the Bono East region. That's where a hold-up in the election result left the structure of parliament still unclear. Today, a high court in Wenchi threw out a petition by the governing NPP seeking to annul the declaration of the seat.
Let's come. Let's come. Master.
That's what they mean. More important, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 manuals this year. So the same thing.
So are you satisfied?
This is what we feel first. So when the election is successful, before now do this, at the end of
What's that? Then they start. We must check that. So let's see.
Nipa no befa we no befa box no sanka officer no efele ha no wie ansa na omo time ayi no akuma hu box number of boxes papers are more expected one for instance Mr. Bosman.
So
yeah, we can succeed.
Can you complete this?
Yeah, we can complete it. This is my face.
So we know the number of papers.
I'm coming. No. This was
yes,
ballot box.
We want to make
so whatever we are doing here, we are
dealing with what is a ballot box.
What have you have kept there? Fine, no, it's not a matter of contention. It's not a matter of contention. That have been in their custody. What they have done is nobody knows. Fine, they have kept it. How many days? But they have kept it.
Yeah, they brought it from home.
We got it from the house. We are going to ask
500 less continue.
100 man. Yes, 100 man. 400.
Right? So that at least it will give us an idea.
All police stations,
yes,
we do that before.
Very good. That is what they were supposed to have done and they didn't do. Right?
All police stations.
Yes.
Ballot what?
Yes.
They use ballot and you have to account for the ballot that you issue to your center. Those issued out, those got spoiled.
So let's account.
At the end of 2, is that before?
The ballot has been done. This is what he has ended. That is the end.
After the end.
That is it.
And the end is end of voting. Please.
Muzumia 8 na wa. Papa
Excuse me, go back a bit. Go back.
Operational manager.
Let's mention the names. If your name is not mentioned, it means you have to leave this premises. That is it.
Hello, sirs. We have 2 representatives each from NDC and NPP. Those from NPP are Honorable Damboche and Mahama Saidi.
So you raise your hand. You raise your hand.
Appealing to all of you, I'm appealing to all of you to stand at a distance. We need only these 4 people here around the table. So please, if you are not a party rep here, please go and stand at a distance, please.
And the media too.
Yeah. The media too.
Now the agents of both parties, that's the NPP represented by Johnson Asiedu Nketia and Dan Botwe of the NPP, have now removed their seals from the box. The contents of the ballot box have been poured onto the table to be sorted. So counting will begin shortly.
Yes, let's do the reconciliation first.
No, because it's not counting.
Before ballot counting presented, 4 counting comments. Yes. So this has been completed.
See one.
When he went and picked the distance. When he went and picked the no, yeah, you should have done it before.
But you are who? That's my deputy.
When he went and brought the box.
Finish doing what you are doing all the time. But whatever I start, you say we're straighting it out. That's what we said. So let's straighten it out. Why? You say we're straightening it out. Let's straighten it out. But I'm saying that you said we are straightening it out. That's what you are doing. No, but how do you trace those that are... Oh, that's not the...
So those are Dan Botwe, who is representing the NPP, and Johnson Asiedu Nketia, who is representing the NDC. During the counting of those ballots there, we're told that the Electoral Commission there is getting ready to declare the results. My colleague Erastus Saridonko has been monitoring for us the process since morning. He joins me on the phone right now. Hello, Erastus.
Hello, Gifty.
Right, Erastus, what is happening right now?
So after a long process of going through to ensure that the disputed ballot box, its contents are opened in agreement with all parties involved, and counting began. They then cross-checked all the leaflets in the ballot books to ensure that there is no overvoting. And when all parties were satisfied, they now added it to the entire collated results of Senate West constituency, and they've calculated that. The calculation is what they were doing right now. I must say that they have finished calculating. The initial figures I'm seeing here, and this will be confirmed by the Electoral Commission soon, is that the NPP currently has 13,100 for the NPP. The NDC has 13,116. 13,116. And so we are expecting that the Electoral Commissioner will declare the results in due time for the winner of the Senate West parliamentary election. So currently, we are waiting for them to input all the data and then do the formal declaration here at the Techiman Divisional Headquarters of the police.
Well, Erastus, so as we speak, I want us to just take our viewers and our listeners who have not followed the process back a little bit. Earlier, there was a court case. Now, this when they went to court, I want you to bring us up to speed on what happened prior in court, which led to the counting of this particular polling station as we wait for the EC to declare the final results.
Right, so let me fill you in before the EC comes in. You know that this disputed polling station, that is Dato Bato polling station, somebody attempted to snatch the ballot box. That person has been jailed. It led to the NPP going to court to put an injunction on the process. That's the further collation of the Senate West results. And so it was suspended for a while. Now today, the court ruled that they dismissed the NPP's further continued to put in the NPP's injunction on the process and asked the Electoral Commission to go back and continue with the collation and further declaration of the result. So they came in, got this particular disputed ballot box from the Divisional Police Headquarters cells, where padlocks had been put on it by all the stakeholders, the NDC, the NPP, and the EC. So they brought it out, counted the ballots in there, and at the end of the day, 175 ballots went to the NDC, 148 went to the NPP, the NDP had 1. Now they went ahead to add this figure to the entire collated results of Senate West to now get to see who won this constituency. So after calculating the entire results, we now have the NPP with 13,100 votes. And we have the NDC having 13,116 votes. So a difference of 16 votes between the two parties. So though the Electoral Commissioner is yet to officially declare winner of this election, I can say that the NDC's parliamentary candidate won this election.
Well, those are still provisional results. They're coming in from the Senate West constituency, where my colleague Erastus Asare Donko is standing by for us. If you're just joining us both on radio and on TV, it has been the disputed Senate West ballot box that has been counted upon the order of a high court, circuit court that sat on this particular case. Now, as Erastus says, those figures have been put together. The initial figures from the polling station was 275 for the NDC, 148 for the NPP, 1 for the NDP. Those have all been computed, including the previous ballot boxes that were counted earlier on election day. NPP so far 13,100 votes, NDC so far 13,116. As we speak, we're waiting for the Electoral Commission Electoral Commission head there to announce or to declare those results. Erastus, we know that the parliamentary candidates, some of them have also showed up there. Are they close by, and can we talk to them?
Hello, Gifty.
Right, Erastus.
Yeah, so let me briefly speak with the legal representative of the NDC, lawyer Kojoga Daudu, and let's find out. So why were we in court today?
Yeah, we were in court because the petition that has been filed by the MPP parliamentary candidate that he should be declared as a validly elected member of parliament. However, we said that the petition was incompetent, it was defective, and once they came today, led by lawyer Obiri Wahin, they agreed with us in the position of the law we have espoused. And they said that, yes, they agree that they should have declared before coming to court. So the court threw them out, and the relief was taken off. Then court also multed them to pay costs of 14,000, and saying that they came and have wasted our time. It was frivolous petition. So the court agreed with us and also said nobody can stop the Electoral Commission, a constitutionally mandated body, not to go ahead with its work. So that is why when we had finished, then at the bar, that is the lawyers, we agreed that let's go and meet the Electoral Commission and see the way forward. It was there that they decided, the NPC decided that they are coming to the divisional command of Nkechima for the ballot to be counted.
So we know what has happened afterwards. I do have the NDC candidate for Senate West currently here. How do you feel at the moment?
Well, at the moment, I think I have to thank my God. I have to thank each and everyone, my lawyers, Dr. Agauda, Honorable Professor Jare, Dr. Lawyer Jima, the General Secretary, being my my party agent today, Honorable Colin Dauda, Honorable Dr.
Let me hold on because Gifty, hold on for us. They are now taking the entire results inside the Divisional Police Headquarters, followed by all the stakeholders. I'm trying to enter the room to get to know what is going to happen from there, because we are waiting for the declaration, formal declaration to be done. The EC has entered the charge office of the Divisional Police Headquarters with the agents of the party, and the security is tied here at the entrance of the charge office, and they are not allowing anybody in, with the exception of some media houses. I'm trying to weave my way in there to find out what is going on inside the room.
Right.
But what I can report in here is that the ballot box, the results, and the various stakeholders, the MPP, the NDC, have been ushered into the charge office, and some people have been prevented.
Erastus, while you wave your way into the location of the ballot boxes as we speak, I want to just find out, initially, from some of the videos that you sent us, we saw the NPP's representative Dan Botwe, in a banter, a sort of a banter with the Electoral Commission officer and then the NDC's representative, Johnson Asiedu Nketia. What was that about?
Well, in fact, the exchanges many. It's a process they were going through. And so at every point in time when they disagree on something, he and Mr. Dan Botwe had exchanges. They disagreed a lot on a number of issues. So I do not know which one you are referring to particularly, but a number of issues cropped up right from when they entered the premises here, the divisional command. The NDC disagreed that indeed they should count the ballot papers in the box because, according to Mr. Asiedu Nketia, they did not go to court to count. And so it became a heated argument until they both agreed that they should count it, and they counted it. On the line, as the votes were being counted, there were times when if the certain part of the process is not transparent to Dan Botwe, he will protest. Mr. Asiedu Nketia will butt in. It will become some, argument, and then they will sort it out. They will move on. That is how it's been like throughout the entire process.
Right, Erastus Asare Donko there. He is at the location. We're waiting for the declaration of the result by the Electoral Commission in the Sine West constituency. As you know, we've had to do a counting of one of the ballot boxes that was outstanding. Now, that ballot box was snatched, as you may be well aware of. It was snatched, but it was retrieved subsequently. When it was retrieved, the NPP's seal was broken, and so there was an injunction on it that from the NPP. They did not want the votes in that box to be counted because their seal was broken. But the seal of the EC was intact. The seal of the NDC was intact on that particular box. Now, when they went to court today, as you head there, the court decided that the votes in that ballot box should be counted, and that has just been done. The NDC secured 275 in that particular ballot box. The NPP had 148. The NDP had 1. And those figures have been added to the previous numbers that we had earlier on the day of election. Those 3 people you see on your screen, if you're watching TV right now, are the people who represented the various parties. Joseph Kuma Mackay for the NPP, Kwame Ampofo-Twumasi for the NDC, and of course Kwame Ampofo-Twumasi was also the same candidate for the party in 2016. Joseph Mackay Kuma was the representative for the NPP in 2016 as well. Right now, NDP had a representative, Caesar Pomeka, as you can see there. In 2016, by the way, the PPP had a representative, Dramani Menu, and then the CPP also had Daniyau Mohammed. As we can see, it's brought down or whittled down to 3. And out of the 3, we're looking at 2 of the candidates now. Right now, we're waiting for the declaration of the result. Let's go to Erastus Saridonko right now, who is on the ground. Erastus, what is happening on the ground right now? Go ahead and tell us.
Currently, a number of party representatives, both parties, NPP, NDC, are locked behind the charge office of the divisional police headquarters. Now we have the regional electoral commissioner in there. We had a number of NPP, NDC, Johnson Asiedun Kitia is in there, Mr. Damboche is in there, a number of the NPP guys are in there. I am locked behind the door and I'm not allowed to enter the charge office where they are to know exactly what is going on in there. We've asked them, they said they were going to come out for the declaration, but they need to finish what they are doing inside there. There are quite a number of party activists outside who want to go in there, but they are prevented from doing so, and that is why we hear the exchanges outside, because they've been prevented from going in there. The police are saying that there are too many people in there, and what they are doing needs to be done before they can do the declaration in a few minutes. But I must say, security here is very tight. A number of armed policemen at the frontage of the charge office at the moment, where the EC and the other dignitaries are inside. We have quite a number of armed military men outside here in the perimeter of the divisional police headquarters. When you go out, we have armed men outside as well. And outside the walls of the divisional headquarters, you have a number of supporters for the NDC and NPP also gathered in there, anxious to get to know who won the Senate West parliamentary elections. But as I told you, for the figures we've been told, and we are here as they write this on the pink sheet, 13,100 for the NPP, 13,116 for the NDC, and that is what we have at the moment. So if we are waiting for them to come out of the room, and then we'll be able to, but I'll still try again to see if I can enter the room to see what is happening in there.
And while you try, Erastus, I want to find out who was allowed into the room. Do you know?
Yes, I know the agents of the NDC were allowed in there, including Johnson Asiedun Kitia and some of the lawyers of the NDC. Also, we have Damboche and some of the NPP agents as well allowed in there. The EC is in there, and some of the other returning officers of the EC are also in there, plus the regional police commander and his men are also in there as well.
Erastus, for purposes of our listeners on radio right now who cannot be there and see what is happening there, describe to us what is happening there right now.
Well, so let me start from outside the walls of the divisional police headquarters. Quite a number. The place is full with 4x4 vehicles, a number of them. The Land Cruisers, D8 Land Cruisers, full to the brim, and they represent the dignitaries and officials who have gathered in here. A number of supporters have also been allowed, and they are outside the perimeter, gazing deep into the perimeter, observing tightly and waiting anxiously for results. They are also gathered in their numbers over there. When you enter the perimeter, we have armed military men at the gate. They are manning the gate at the moment. And then we have a number of journalists and party agents, supporters, sympathizers, also under the mango tree here. And then when you descend down to where we did the collation, the frontage of the divisional police headquarters has been cordoned off with EC tapes, and there is a table in the cordon where the collation was done, the counting and everything was done. Then you enter the charge office proper. In front of the charge office, we have armed policemen who are currently manning the gate and not allowing anybody to enter. We have the operations commander standing in command, in front of the armed policemen. We have a number of journalists who were not able to go inside. They are also standing in front of the charge office as well. So that is the scenery as we have here in the divisional headquarters. Let me see if I can well, I've been told to stay off, but I'll try to see if I can still enter and get to fill you in on what is happening.
And I can imagine what the situation is right now. Erastus, would like to find out what is supposed to happen next. We know that we're waiting for the EC and those who have entered the charge office to come out and declare the results. Is that it?
Exactly. What is supposed to happen next? And I can just imagine what is going on in there is that we are waiting for just one thing. Everything has been done. The agents for the two parties have signed the result sheets, the pink sheets. They are content with it. Those who are disappointed already have left. So in there, I am thinking that they are going to sit down with all parties and let them agree that, yes, they are going to declare the results and everybody will stay calm and go his way. That's what I'm thinking. Because that is the only thing that is left now for the declaration, official declaration, to be done here by the regional EC boss, and then everybody will go his separate ways. But right here in front of the divisional headquarters, they agreed, and you could see both parties agreed that, yes, whoever has won, and they were content with it because it went through a painstaking process, I must tell you, Gifty, because to count the ballot sheets, the torn ballot sheets from the book, one by one, the pieces, one by one, to ensure that they tally with the results in the ballot box, was a painstaking exercise that they have to go through. At a point in time when they were done, somebody will say, no, I missed the count, let's go over, and they will go over all that again, about 400 and something ballots. Papers being counted one by one. So after the process, they all agree that yes, they've both taken themselves through a rigorous exercise that has proven that yes, whatever results they have come up with is okay. And so I did not see any protest from any of the parties, and they've now been ushered into the charge office where the regional police commander is in there. The regional EC boss and his two returning officers are also in there. The agents of the NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, lawyer Kujuga Adawudu is also in there. The operations commander for the Techiman regional, the Bruno East Regional Police Command is also in there. Quite a number of the NPP guys, Damboche and the other guys are also in there. So my view is that perhaps they're going to talk to all the stakeholders to ensure that there is peace, and then they will come out to declare officially the results for everybody to have it sealed.
Right. Erastus, I know that you are trying to still make your way, some way, somehow into this space and see if we can get to understand what is happening there. We also know that there are scores of supporters who have massed up at this particular police station. I'll just talk to Evans Mensah, head of our political desk here, who has just joined me in studio. But Erastus, as I talk to Evans, hopefully we can get to hear some of the supporters who have gathered there on their thoughts of what is happening so far. Erastus Asari Donko there in Sine West. Right, Evans, you're welcome. It's good to have you. I know that you've been monitoring this from afar, behind the scenes as well. What are you reading so far?
So it's good that Erastus has given us an update on the counting, which is I guess this is what it all boils down to. We're still waiting for the Electoral Commission to sort of endorse and then declare the formal results. But the history of this particular constituency in terms of the way it voted over the years, and what is panning out right now, even with the provisional figures that we have, makes the outcome very interesting. It appears it's on the knife's edge with 16 votes separating the two parties as of now. Of course, we hope, again, I'm curious why, and Erastus, of course, because of this playing out and it's unfolding pretty fluid, we don't have clarity yet why they've taken the entire process behind closed doors, so to speak. He says he's actually been locked out.
Yes, he has. Evans, I need to just jump in there. Sorry to interrupt you briefly. Erastus is speaking to some of the people there on the location. Let's listen to them.
So as we are here to actually witness justice. Nothing else, justice.
Well, besides this, we need to witness justice. And what will be justice for you?
Justice talks about the will of the people, and as we all know, that the sovereignty of this country is from the people. And for when the people speak, it must reflect. And that is what we mean by justice. Right.
I have another gentleman here. I've seen you here this morning. You were at the court as well. What is your motivation for?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I'm Omar Sahib Domba. My motivation is that we have gone to vote. Senate West people have gone to vote. The NPP people are contesting the results. But when you look at the history since 1996, the NPP has never won the Senate West seat. So I don't know, first of all, what motivated them to take the issue to court. But today the court said that the electoral commissioners will go and do his job. So that has pushed us to come here for counting to be done. And
you've been observing the process right from the start. I could see you standing behind a big barricade and keeping through, seeing everything. Are you satisfied with the process?
So far, so good. I can say that I'm satisfied. But the number of people that tags that you can see here, I was actually shocked when I saw them in the morning. What we all talk about is peace. But if we look at SDG goal system, we talk about peace, justice, and strong institutions. It means that if there can be peace, there should be justice, and the institutions should be strong. So I don't think, first of all, that there is a need for us to get military men, policemen, party vigilante men at this place. But we know that court will rule and will count, and at the end of the day, who will win, and who will lose.
So that is another gentleman staring and peeking through the fence into the compound of the divisional police headquarters. Quite a number of them standing outside here. I would like to speak to some of them as well.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Why have you been here? I think the first morning. Why are you here?
We are here to support our brother, the MP elect. You know, he's going to win, but due to circumstances beyond his control, we have been brought here to witness the recounting or counting of a particular polling station. Though I'm from Techiman, I'm an NDC man, and I have the obligation as an NDC person to come here to support the MP of Senate West.
So currently, what are you waiting for?
We're waiting for the declaration because we have observed, and I can tell you for sure, though I'm at the back of the building, but I can tell you for sure, after the declaration, I think the MP will win back his seat.
So you had another gentleman in here. Expectations are high. They are all peeping through the barricade and, waiting anxiously that any moment the EC and his entourage will come out and they will do the official declaration for them to have their seal here.
Okay. Erastus, I'll be coming back to you shortly as we all wait. But Evans Mensah, head of our political desk, is here with me in the studio. Evans, you were making a point about the process.
Yes, I mean, Erastus has told us, as it keeps unfolding in Senate West, that after the counting of this disputed ballot box, they added it to the remainder of the collated results prior to today. And then they took the entire process behind closed doors. As in, they went in the inner recesses of the police station where they were. And he himself and other journalists who are following this have been locked out of the process. I mean, knowing the way our election processes had gone, or the way the tradition surrounding very open public declaration of results, especially at the collation center, it's just my hope that the final official declaration of the winner will be done the way all other collation center constituency results are done, as in the full glare of the public. The Electoral Commission of officer will emerge from the inner recess of the police station there and declare it for everybody to see, with the media monitoring and covering it live. Especially when this is disputed, right? Especially when this counting is as a result of a court case. You won the entire, they did the first part of it in the open, which is the counting. And then somehow they've taken it inside. The key part is the official declaration, right? In fact, we had the NDC candidate on your show sounding as if he's won it, right? I mean, of course, from the provisional figures, it appears that there's a 16-vote margin between himself and the NPP candidate putting him in the lead, but we have to still wait for the Electoral Commission's officer to make the official declaration. I hope that will happen in a full glass so we can hear and settle the dispute about this. But I was making the point about the history of Senate West. I am surprised that it's come down to a knives edge contest in this year's elections. Because if you Senate West is a stronghold of the NDC. They've always won that seat, not more than 51%. I mean, the least they've gotten in terms of that particular constituency since 1996, as my checks show, is 51%, which is 2016. But if you look at the trend, they've been on the downward trajectory. I mean, from a high of in 1996 of 79.8%, they've consistently lost votes, but they still won it, right?
Yeah.
Till their lowest victory, margin of victory, percentage terms of 51.9% in the last elections. Now it's come down to 16 votes. Now, in real terms, if you look at the actual vote difference for the 2016 elections, it came down to 1,482 votes. That was the difference between this NDC incumbent, who is still the candidate,
Kwame Twumasi.
He won it with, this was a marginal seat, right? It's 1,482 votes the last time. Now we are talking about 16 votes, possibly being the margin he will win it by. And so I'm looking at that and I'm thinking that that sort of closeness this time either will show that either the MPP had done a very good work on the ground and had managed to close the gap quite significantly, or maybe the candidate himself had waned in terms of his ability to bring in votes as he did in the last elections. But a lot of things were at play, right? And it comes down to this ballot box that was snatched.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, it sort of cast the entire process in doubt. It's actually good, right, that the court has made a pronouncement. That is how disputes are resolved in a democracy. And now the EC had the power to go ahead after the court's declaration to do the counting. All we await is this formal declaration. But the question really to ask is, why is Senate West important? Why are we spending time talking about this?
Now,
because that is a seat that if NDC wins, puts them dead center, equally divided in Parliament, 137 seats for the MPP, 137 seats for the NDC, with one independent. I mean, so that is why the seat is so critical in how in the sort of the definition of the fourth Parliament's architecture the eighth Parliament architecture going forward. And no wonder it's so keenly contested. And you see the caliber of people both parties have dispatched to be their agents on the ground, reflecting the importance of Senate West. You have an MPP stalwart, as in Dan Botwe himself there on the ground.
Yeah.
You have Johnson Asiedu Nketia himself, because they appreciate how critical this is. We know that the independent candidate is going to sit with the MPP, right? But that is how close this is going to be. If the NDC wins this, puts them sharing the seats equally, then the one person now becomes the decider who has that simple majority. I mean, so that is why Senate West is important. That is why we're keeping an eye on what is unfolding in Senate West. And everybody else is waiting for the declaration to put this entire thing to rest. It's a question of whether the candidate who loses by 16 votes wants to challenge the process further than they've done. I mean, I've seen the MPP candidate on the ground.
Yeah. Evans, maybe we can take a little bit of a look at the candidates. I mean, I'm not sure if we have how much information we have on them at the moment. We do know that for sure that the NDC's candidate is on the ground right now. Erastus just spoke to him briefly there. But we know that Joseph Kwame Kuma McKay for the NPP, Kwame Ampofo Twumasi for the NDC, they've been at this. I mean, they didn't just start today. They were the same people for the parties in 2016, and they fielded them again in 2020. And then we're looking at the figure dynamics that you're just taking us through.
Yeah, I mean, for the MPP, it makes sense, right? Because as I said, you would have to maintain Joseph McKay Kuma, because for a seat that is, as I've said, is a stronghold of the NDC, that they won it by 79% in 1996 and 60% on the average over the years, for a candidate, Joseph Mackay Kuma, who then manages to perform to the extent where, for the very first time, the party manages to close the gap to its closest margins yet, with a difference of 1,400 votes in the 2016 elections. It just shows that if you keep him, he can cause an upset. In fact, if there's a win for the NDC tonight by 16 votes, it should definitely give the NDC some cause for concern. But that really wouldn't matter. As they say, if you won it by 1 vote or by 10,000, 50,000 votes, it's still a victory. All right? I mean, you still get 1 extra seat in parliament, so that shouldn't matter much. But if you are playing the long game, as I hope the NDC will be playing, you'll be looking at what this means for 2024. Because as I've said, they've been winning it, but in terms of the margins, have been dwindling over time, with the lowest being 2016, and now even closer in terms of 16 votes, right? So you're looking at it, asking yourself, if this trajectory continues, what happens in 2024?
What happens in 2024? Okay,
so you have to look at that long game. But for now, because of the way Parliament is going to turn out, you really won't care. You simply want, even if it's 1 vote, you simply want to win and be in there. And so you have a say. And Elton was telling me, parliamentary correspondent for years, was telling me, if they manage to get this Senate West seat in Parliament, if it comes to the nomination of a speaker, they'll have a big say. In fact, it will actually come down to MPP putting up a candidate. They also, NDC putting up a candidate as well in terms for a speaker. And that could go down to a vote, as in who becomes the speaker. And of course, we know that an independent candidate might
certainly go the NPP way. We've had the NDC say consistently, even during the election, before the votes were counted, it looks like they have their eyes on the speaker. On being able to choose a speaker or have that big say, as you say, in Parliament. But Evans, I'm wondering what this could do for the massive nationwide protest that we've seen across the country. One of the key things for the NDC has been that they are protesting the results of this particular election, but they've been very involved in this one, meaning this.
Yeah, I mean, I found it curious, I must say. I mean, just a short while when I was listening to Erastus talk to Victor Kojaga Daudu, he made a pronouncement about in this case, the MPP was didn't want the EC to go ahead and do the declaration.
Yes.
They had gone to court for that purpose. In fact, when it came to the ground, we saw the videos of Damboche objecting to a lot of things.
At a point, yeah.
But you see Asiedu Nketia encouraging the process to move forward. Now, it says a lot, right, about what is playing out at the national level, with the NDC saying that, well, we don't accept the results. But when it comes to Senate West, where they know that they are in the lead, they want the EC to be given the free hand to declare the results. And I heard Adaudu say that the EC is a legally mandated body to do the official declaration. That is actually the law. I mean, and it applies in parliamentary as it applies in presidential. Okay, and so back to the question about what would this mean for the national?
Yeah, could this be the soothing factor, for example, for the NDC, given that they have disputed the election results?
Absolutely, possibly. I mean, because remember that consistently, even the flag bearer had pitched the parliamentary angle, as in we're getting the majority in parliament, etc. If they win this, they split parliament equally in equal halves. That can be a consolation at best for the NDC. As to whether that will have a knock-on effect on their presidential grievances, I can't tell. But for the masses out there who are on the streets, just watch this play out very closely. Today they were at the EC headquarters protesting. But that same EC is superintending over the Senate West. Your General Secretary is there, in fact, encouraging the EC to do its job and saying that they must be allowed to declare the results. Why? Because he's seen, per the counting, that his candidate is going to win. I mean, so if you are on the ground protesting, You should watch the optics of it playing out there in Senate West. And you have to take a cue from that as to what you decide to do. Because it's the same electoral commission. I mean, that is supervising Senate West as in the national elections. Right. And it's gone to court and come back and counting. I'm just waiting for the declaration to be done.
Certainly that's what we're all waiting for. Now, Mani Erastus Asare Donkor is on the ground for us. If you're just joining in, we're waiting for the declaration for the Senate West constituency results, which has just, been wrapped up with the final polling station that was outstanding. Erastus, have you made any headway getting into that room right now?
I'm still being disallowed from entering the premises. I don't know why, because other party agents have come and they've been allowed to enter, but I've still explained myself to them, but they don't want me to enter. In fact, the operations commander has given specific instructions to them not to allow me to enter. So I'm still outside here, still waiting for them to come out and do the declaration so that likewise, we have quite a number of media guys who are also out here waiting for the final declaration to be made by the regional EC boss. And so we are still out here. Up there, I don't know what is going on in there, but quite a number of policemen are up there guarding where they are having the supposed meeting. We do not know what it's about, but I am trying to imagine that it might be to sort of conscientize all stakeholders about the declaration and the fact that they have to be calm and peaceful after the declaration. So
give us an idea of what you're seeing. Has anything changed from the picture you gave us previously?
No, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed, with the exception of some party agents who are entering. Okay, I can see one BNI officer come out, and then there is the candidate for the Techiman South NDC, Mr. Bayre. I will try to speak with him shortly. Mr. Bayre, good afternoon. Welcome to the
afternoon, my brother.
You with Mr. Bayre, who is the Techiman South parliamentary candidate for the NDC.
That is clear that the NDC has won. So we'll now be visiting the Techiman City.
When you say administrative procedures, what has been going on?
Oh, it's just trying to understand each other and then the list of the person who has won, and that's the NDC candidate.
So perhaps preparing the stakeholders' mind for the final declaration.
Exactly, that's what they are doing.
Let me speak to you about your own people losing their lives. What are you saying?
With the Techiman South, like we told you, we are never going to give in today or tomorrow. Once we have finished with the Senate West, we are coming to Techiman South with full force. We have won the seat. There was no coalition, and we expect the EC to do the right thing. We will never give up. We will insist. Democracy, we suffered to move from independence, got our independence, moved from military to democracy. In that case, it was very clear. And I was surprised about the incidents of Jane Mensah, who we heard on air saying that Techiman South wasn't part of the declaration. Did you hear? Yes, and surprisingly, the following day, then she decided to add the parliamentary. We fight till the last end. We'll never give up. You hear from us.
That's Mr. Bayre, who is the NDC candidate for Techiman South. I've now gotten a call from the operations commander that I can enter now. So, Gifty, I'm entering to see what is really going on.
Give us a mental picture of what you see as you go along, Erastus.
Yes, so I'm in here and the meeting is going on upstairs. And so I'm going to climb the stairs now to get to where the meeting is taking place. So we are being led. A number of journalists are being led up the stairs now. We are climbing now to where the meeting is being held to get more information as to what has transpired so far. But you heard from Mr. Bayre that just as I told you before,
they are trying to conscientize the stakeholders, the declaration, and they need to be patient and they need to be peaceful after the declaration to forge a common.
That brings me to the question about who was represented there. Do we have the 2 parliamentary candidates in this room? Do you know?
Okay, yes, I can say that. Okay, I'm inside the room now.
Great. We could tell from the tone that it's just gone down. It certainly sounds like the meeting is still ongoing and you do not want to disturb the meeting. But if you can give us, maybe step out and give us an idea what you see right now as you've entered the room.
Seated at the head of the table, and I can see the NDC on one side, and the NPP is also on one side. They are doing tabulation. I must say, figures are being calculated, and you can hear them. They announcing the figures, and all of them calculating what they are doing. So I will deduce that they are going through the figures again, the calculation. My understanding of this will be that perhaps there is still not clarity as to somebody understanding that, okay, all of them understanding that the figures they arrived at is the final figure.
Erasto, just a quick one. Before you...
Telling the figures out one by one and doing the collation.
Okay. Erasto, do you hear me?
At this round table full of all the stakeholders, I can see Johnson here with his calculator. On the other hand, his lawyer is also on the other hand, doing the calculator. And I can see on the MPP side, the MPP agent for that polling station, the seated polling station. Dandoche is seated close to him in that order. And they are all doing the calculation at the moment.
So, Erastus, I just want to find out, what you reported earlier.
On what is happening.
Sorry, Erastus, you reported earlier that the figures, as were announced after the counting, was signed by the parties. Is this correct? Reaffirm.
Yes. Yes, it was inputted onto the pin sheet, and it was signed by all the agents we saw. So I wouldn't know the extent of this tabulation again until I find out.
Okay.
They are seated around the round table, so it's difficult pulling any of them out of the round table to ask questions. But let me find out from the officers around to see if I can get some answers for you as to what is happening at the moment.
That's Erastus Asare-Donkor there. He's our man on the Sene West constituency, trying to get for us that declaration that we're all waiting for. As Erastus is reporting right now, those the votes from that disputed ballot box were carried into the police station. He's been invited into the police station now. What he says is that he sees the NDC and the MPP and some other officials seated on a round table doing what looks like a recalculation. Evans, I'm wondering what your guess is at this point.
I think it's just the right thing. Also because a lot is dependent, a lot is hanging on Sene West. And again, because it's 16 votes, right? You have to, if you have to do it 3 times, collate everything.
Just to be sure that
just so you leave no doubt in the minds of any of the parties that what you have declared or put out is what it is.
Okay.
And I think it's just from the abundance of caution. Again, having seen what has happened over the last few days since elections, I think it's a confidence-boosting measure that even after, as Erastus has said, and we are waiting the Electoral Commission to make the declaration, even after the parties had signed, let's sit around the table, let's re-tabulate the figures. Everybody is happy. If you want, call for another one. And let's retabulate. I think if that is what is happening, I think it is the right thing to do. Because of how important Sene West has become in the bigger scheme of things in Parliament and in this country, you must give it your utmost attention and be very careful in the way you sort of tabulate the figures. The MPP had major issues with it. We have the Dan Botwe raising many concerns when they were about to do the initial count. Yes, it was done. They took it into the police headquarters room itself, and they're doing retabulation. That is key. It is, for me, is a confidence boosting measure.
Okay.
It may turn out to be still 16 votes, right?
But what then will be the implication?
Lost, you know you've lost.
But then, Evans, what will be the implication if they do, after this retabulation, they realize that the figures have changed?
I mean, hopefully that won't happen, right? Hopefully that won't happen because they've done it. I hope they've done a careful job. But in these matters with Marts, there's always a 1 or a 2, sometimes that come to play. But we hope that is hypothetical and that will never happen, that will change. But that is why the utmost transparency is needed in the process of putting the actual figures, even if I'm the EC. And I'm 100%, 100,000% sure that the figures are put out is what it is.
Yeah.
Even if nobody requests for a recount, because it's 16 votes difference, and because it's Senate West, and because the parliamentary balance hangs on it, I would say, can I do another count just to be absolutely sure that this is? And from what Erastus describes in the room, it gives a very peaceful picture of two parties who are haggling over the numbers in a constituency that means everything for both sides, calmly waiting for the EC to retabulate. And I think that is really what our system is supposed to be.
All right. Evans, I'll come back to you. But if you're just joining us, I want you to know that it's almost 4 p.m. right now. The counting started, I think, at somewhere around 12:30 or 1 p.m. It's almost 4 p.m. The counting has ended, but we're doing tabulation right now. Erastus Asare-Donkor, our man on the ground, tells us that they have, even though they finished the counting and put it together with the NDC leading with 16 votes, they've had to go back to do retabulation. We have Erastus on the ground. Evans, the picture is from the lenses you watch. You know, the NDC is seeing a different picture, the MPP is seeing a different picture. The NDC says there is no majority in Parliament as we speak.
Well, and they say that because of Techiman South.
Yes.
So there is a significant dispute there in Techiman South that the NDC is contesting. The EC, in its one of its key press conferences, had mentioned that they are still awaiting this Techiman South because it was contested. And there were violent scenes with the military, etc. So the officers were not able to declare, and they were waiting for them to sort of gather their thoughts for that to happen. Now, the NDC contests.
So that open declaration, that open declaration was what did not happen. But subsequently, we're told that it's been declared.
Subsequently, as we've seen, and I've been quoting from the EC statement, that had been done. But the NDC says they were not part of that process. And so they cannot sort of acknowledge and accept the outcome in Techiman South, and that is a seat that they are contesting because they believe they won it. Now, so if you believe what they say, then it will deprive the NPP of the one seat, right? Which the EC had put their total figure at 137. That it deprives them of one seat. That gives the NDC 137 instead of 136, right? And then you ask Senate West, which is currently, we are waiting for the declaration to come in, puts them at 138. Now, even if you add the independent to the MPPs in that particular scenario, MPP comes to 137, NDC 138. So that is why they say they have the majority in Parliament, right? I mean, but then again, it is a case of what the EC had done and how the NDC can legitimately challenge Techiman South to get that result overturned for what they believe happened to prevail. For me, that's where it comes down to. Because as it stands, the EC had gone ahead to do something, they've declared it, and they've added it to the tally, right? The NDC says that is not true. You cannot add it because the processes were not followed. It wasn't transparent, and we believe we had won. That is a huge contest, and I'm still waiting to see how the NDC fights that legally. I mean, to sort of get their side to prevail in this particular matter. We saw in Senate West how this went to court, and the MPP lost miserably. In fact, they've been asked to pay a fine of $14,000 for wasting the court's time. So obviously, it may come down to that in Techiman South. And so once we talk about Senate West, we have to talk about Techiman South. Because all that the EC had done it, the NDC says, well, we don't believe that is a reflection of what actually should prevail, and they are contesting that. And if you bring that into play, it changes the dynamics quite significantly. Yeah. But then again, as we've always said, there are procedures for challenging an outcome that the EC has endorsed and declared if you're unhappy with it, which is ultimately going to the High Court to file a proper case, as the MPP did in Senate West. In Senate West. And it was thrown away. I mean, but then again, look, the Senate West, we are still waiting the declaration. And we learned from Erastus that apparently this recollation or retabulation that is now happening in the inner recesses of the police headquarters there is based on a request that the MPP had done after they had apparently, and we are waiting for this to be confirmed, lost the seat by 16 votes, right? And you see why they'll do that, because if it's 60, if it's that close, you are hoping that if you ask for retabulation, somehow something will change in the 16 votes that may make, you don't want to accept. It's harder to accept. Those who watch and love football will tell you, if you lose by eight goals, sometimes you're happy. You know you're useless, right? But if you lose by 1 goal towards the end, it's painful. It's harder to accept. It is the reason why in the World Cup when Asamoah Gyan missed that penalty, we all remember that.
So this sounds like penalty time.
It comes down to that because it's just one. Yeah. That 1 goal would have taken us to the semi-finals of the World Cup. Right. That is why the MPP is doing what it's doing in Senate West, asking for retabulation of the vote. And I am happy that the NDC appears to have agreed to that process. And the calmness with which it's being done in that around that round table that Erastus described for us, it sometimes makes you feel proud about democracy. That in the midst of all this tension and disagreement, in this one constituency that can sway how Parliament pans out in terms of the balance, the two sides, in spite of the calculations, tabulations, and retabulations, are happy to agree to another.
To actually sit down and retabulate
the figures. I mean, even although one party has won by 16 votes, and in fact could have said, no way, I don't want any tabulation because something might happen. The NDC has agreed to the MPP's request that let's retabulate, although they've done it already. And the scene Erastus described there is one that really sometimes you look at our democracy and gives you confidence. They are seated around the round table. Yeah. And there's calmness in the calculations that have been done again.
Well,
that is what you hope will be replicated across the board.
Across the board. Well, to just bring this a little bit of this in, that we don't know what happened prior to their agreement. their agreement to sit on the table.
We met the calmness.
Exactly.
Okay, well.
You do know that at the beginning, everybody was forcing themselves into this particular room at the police station, and they were disallowed, including the media, including our man Erastus Asare-Donkor. So we don't know what has happened before. But the good thing is, finally, they've sat down and they've agreed, and they are retabulating.
And it's calm. Erastus went there, and Erastus was talking to us, and immediately entered the room. The calmness affected his tone.
Exactly.
It was so calm, and the quiet, no disturbance.
That's it.
I mean, it makes the democracy very beautiful. And this is a fight over 16 votes, which is huge. That could turn, of course, if you add Techiman South to the question, which is still an open question. But this is so huge. And we should applaud the two sides. And General Mosquito is there. Joseph Nketiah is in that room.
Is there.
Dangote, two big wigs of the parties, agreeing to settle the matter using formal processes. I mean, honestly, the lawyers should tell us whether what Erastus described was retabulation. I don't know if it's part of the legal terminology or the law to do retabulation. But my point is, even if it is not, but it is the way to bring confidence to the outcome on both sides, do it, which is what they are doing in a room at the police headquarters in Senate West.
Yeah. So what we're waiting for is for this retabulation. And when, like Evans has pointed out, when we join Erastus back, we'll find out what legal term they're giving it. What exactly is it? Some sort of recollation, retabulation, recount? No, not recounting, maybe recalculation.
It sounds to me the legal term, I mean, that is allowed is recollation. If you are doing it at the collation
because it looks as if they're putting together all the figures that we had from the election
recount
day.
Is at collation center.
Collation center.
When they get to the, sorry, it's at the polling center.
Polling station.
Polling station, yeah. If you get to the collation center and it's done and it's added, and you want to contest, you want to recollect, then you recollect all the pollings. Yeah. So it's possible that that is what is happening, that do the recollation again after you've done it the first time, which and clearly the law allows that to happen.
Well, we'll try and raise Erastus back and find out. What Erastus has reported a short while ago is that the retabulation, and we'll get the exact description, but so far the retabulation has been done for the NDC. Now, what is going on right now is the retabulation for the NPP. So Erastus is standing by. The NDC, by the way, is also holding a press conference at its headquarters. They were talking about the presidential votes earlier. We'll join them again when they talk about the parliamentary seats. They've indicated that they'll be talking about the parliamentary seats. So we'll be joining them once again. But Evans, I see that you've opened the smart wall.
Oh, I've opened the smart wall, and I'm going to. I mean, we will definitely. I'm sure the directors will have to get our audiences to get that down so they can participate in that, because we want to show you this Centre West seat in history, in a trend, just to appreciate what is happening, and how the NPP had consistently hammered that constituency until what we are witnessing now play out. I mean, it is when you appreciate the history and the trend that you begin to again appreciate the gravity of what is happening in there. I want to come to this is so this what you see is this is the Bono East constituency, right? I mean, and this is this gray area here is Centre West. That's what you see there in yellow, right? This is the area in contest. And then for those who may have questions about it, I just want to circle it for you so you appreciate what I'm talking about. This area here is what is in contest right now. Now this is 2020 parliamentary, and we haven't failed it for obvious reasons, because it's still an issue that is playing out on the ground. We're waiting for the declaration. But if you go back in time to what it used to be before. So let's go back to 2016, for example. In 2016, what was the story in that part of the country? Now, I want to go back to the 2016 map and pull up then of course it used to be the Bonahafo region, and in that particular part of the country, the NDC won it, but they won it with a tiny little margin of 51%. In fact, it came down to 1,400 votes there in the Bono region. So here we are in Centre West in 2016. Now, in Centre West in 2016, the current Member of Parliament, who again is recontesting, Kwame Twumasi-Ampofo, won it by 51%, 51.9%. That is the closest margin of victory for the NDC in that area. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll show you the trend over time and see how the NDC wins it. But they've been winning it with a consistently lower margin over the years, dropping votes consistently onto what has happened today. Stay with us.